So we've seen today something completely unprecedented, and of course it's an act of aggression by the government. It's to put it straightforward. The farmers and truck drivers, including some ordinary people too, who are at these protests in Dublin and on motorways across the length and breadth of the country in Galway, in Cork, etc. The only thing they wanted, and for the last few weeks they've been asked, for the last month they've been asking the government, please do something about this carbon tax, or do something to lower the cost of petrol and diesel. Because obviously as a farmer, etc., you're trying to produce food, you have a few tractors kind of take up all the fuel basically, and then if you're a truck driver, you're driving hundreds of kilometres a week. And of course that's going to show at the end of the week when you get the bill. But this is the thing. The government were asked the last 2 days, would they meet with the farmers? Would they have a discussion? Would they have an open discussion? Or try and find out some deal? Try and work out some deal? Because again, the only thing they're asking the government to do, get rid of the carbon tax for the moment, even if they got rid of it for the next few months, and then reintroduced it. We would rather get rid of it altogether, but at least if they got something like that, at least if we get something. But at the moment, the government are too stubborn and saying, fuck you, basically. That's pretty much what's been given back to the people of Ireland, not just the farmers and the people of Ireland. Fuck you, we don't care about you, basically. And that's to be totally honest. And now, for the first time ever, they're talking about let's send in the army, to disperse these people. Because nothing says free democracy, sovereign democracy, like send in the army, crush the resistance. That's pretty much what's been said. Let's crush the resistance, and straight away that looks terrible. Like even this alone, just looking at it in the foreign media, that the Irish government is sending in the army. It's a terrible thing. They like in North Korea they do that, in China they do that when there's protests. They send in the army to crush the resistance, to take down the people, to silence them. To take away their right to freedom and to take away their right to freedom of speech. That's pretty much what the government intended to do, frighten people. If we're sending the army, they have to deal with them. But, and again, hopefully the army refuses to do it, because again, they have to, and I say this to the members of the Defence Forces, and to An Garda Síochána too, you have an oath to the people of Ireland, not to the government of Ireland, you have an oath to the people of Ireland, and to uphold the Irish Constitution. And of course, if you should be going in to send in the army somewhere, you should be sending it to Dáil Éireann and putting the politicians in jail. That's where they should be going, to be totally honest. If the army had any decency, if the commandants of the army had any decency, they should be getting the politicians and bringing them up and dealing with them, instead of going on and trying to deal with the Irish people. Because the Irish people pay your wages, you're there to protect the Irish people, they're there to protect the Irish nation. And again, this is going to backfire on the government. If they do send in the army to deal with it, it's going to backfire something fierce. And it will backfire something fierce, because just even alone, if the army say remove protesters or remove vehicles, what they're talking about doing is removing the army to remove big trucks, etc., that are blocking roads, etc. Even just doing that, it's going to look terrible on the Irish Defence Forces. And I just say that, and I said this to the chiefs of staff to Defence Forces and stuff, that it look terrible on the Defence Forces to interfere and stuff. Because again, at the end of the day, it's on Garda Síochána, it's up to them to deal with it. It's not up to the army to go out and deal. The army will know where to be found, and I don't blame the army for this. As the Minister of Defence, at the time when the storm came in February, they wouldn't deploy the army. There was hundreds of thousands of people without electricity, without power, without getting to the shops because they were blocked in, and the state wouldn't deploy the army. They wouldn't deploy the army. So why are they deploying the army now? Back then, when there was actually an emergency, when so many people were left stranded, abandoned for weeks, without any electricity, without any water in some cases, there was no such thing as let's send in the army. They didn't even care. The Irish state didn't care. But even this, there was a tweet earlier on Twitter that summed it up perfectly. For the last few days, they were asking for discussions to the farmers. They say to the government, look, we meet and we try and work out some kind of deal. If we get something, even something, anything at all. But the Irish government's basically just like, fuck you. And that's what they pretty much ended with sending the army. So that's a great negotiating thing. Just sending the army and that'll deal with it. But yeah, it's totally 1984, I think they're reading, because let's be honest with you, the whole agenda of 90, you own nothing to be happy about it. That's pretty much, and the whole agenda about that is we don't watch the farmers. They particularly hate farmers in this country and across the European Union, etc. They hate the identity of farmers, like people being able to grow their own crops and stuff. They watch to eat the bugs, etc. That's pretty much their agenda. And I don't want to sound like conspiracy, but that's pretty much it, because there's no other suggestion of why. And particularly Fine Gael, years ago, and still to this day, are known as the Farmers' Party, supposed to be for the farmers. Even in Finland, take for example, at the moment there was a protest outside the Parliament in Helsinki. Like the second party in government, the True Finns, you would call them the Finns Party. They used to be the rural Finnish party. They're supposed to be for the farmers, for the rural communities. But nothing's been done to help them either. But it's very ironic that the Farmers Party are in governments and stuff, and they won't do anything to help the farmers. But hopefully this, because again, the majority of farmers, unfortunately, have voted Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. A lot of them have. Because they think Fianna Gael's the Farmers Party. But Fianna Gael have sold them out. Fianna Fáil have sold them out here. And they won't do it because it's simple. It's not that. They're not asking Micheál Martin to take it out of his own back pocket. They're just asking, take away some of the tax of it, or take the carbon tax away, or do something, extend grants, etc. They're not asking for much. They're asking for a small thing, the grand scheme of things. Like, it's pocket change for the Irish state. It is basically pocket change. It's costing them more for these protests, etc., because nobody can get moving anywhere. And only rightly so. And the only reason why they had to do it, because they were forced to do it, because the government refused to listen, and the only way to make them listen is to block up the whole place and to make them listen that way, because that's the only way they're going to listen, unfortunately. It's the same with everything, because people begged them, particularly take for example immigration and stuff, and this is a different issue, but I just want to say, but people begged the government to listen many times. When we see what happened in Dublin that time, the stabbing outside the school, and then we've seen in Clondalk, and we've seen another new time around Kennedy, for months and years before, and the Irish people were begging the government, do something about this before something happened. And they kept kicking it down the road and refusing to acknowledge the reality. We can't have that. We simply can't have that in this country. We can't have just being kicked down the road. But hopefully something gets done. Hopefully the government will see sense. And hopefully they don't. Hopefully the army, the chief of staff of the army, all the officers in the army would say, no, we won't do it. Because they already tried to get Harley, individuals, tow truck drivers to move the tractors and to move the trucks, etc. But they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. So I would say to the army not to do it, because they're not. At the end of the day, it is not their job. I know the state is saying for critical infrastructure, etc. And I get that. But this is the thing. The simple solution is get them to the table, have a discussion about it, find a deal, and that's it. Everybody go home. Once they get a deal, they'll be happy enough to go home. And that's pretty much your answer. Trying to send in the army just to crush these people is not going to help anybody. If anything, it turns more people against the government. And it should, because the government are not your friend. The Irish state is not your friend. They're your enemy. They're the enemy of this country, to be totally honest, in what they're doing to people. And generally, honestly, that's just straight up. Because we have no reason to trust them, because they're not coming along. There's so many young people struggling at the moment to make ends meet. And I could go on. 16,000 people homeless. We could go on for a few hours talking about everything under the sun. Take for example, ambulance waiting times in Cavan are atrocious. Nearly, you wait 6 hours. You could be dead in 6 hours waiting for an ambulance in Cavan, just to say. So I don't see the government ever, and that for the last few years, the government hasn't done anything to help. But anyway, let me know what you think. This is quite from Bye.